Students, hope you are doing well. So in the last video we have discussed how the syllabus has not yet changed and some of the writers they are asking the same things in the greater depth. So kahin na kahin pe you have to build a strong reading habit, and I would suggest one simple book that you should be strongly reading it every single day, comprehending so that you can improve your comprehension of literary theory. So this time 37 questions came in literary theory. Every year they're asking at least 30 questions in literary theory. For last 2 years or 3 years I am saying that literary theory and British literature, these two subjects cover almost 50 to 55% of the question paper in examination. So these two subjects are the most important one. And the last examination that happened in June 2025, we have also seen like 55 questions came from literary theory and British literature. The remaining important subjects are the three. So we have the whole question paper from the 5 major subjects. In American literature they asked only one question. In world literature they asked only 2 questions. One is who is the father of African short story or poetry, whatever was that, and another question was on the Australian Patrick White. So world literature only 2 questions, American literature only 1 question. So what we can see is that the trend is changing towards you can say analytical thinking, just because of the AI. Earlier we did not have the resources. Yes, we did not have the resources, so we used to study according to the resources, and the paper pattern was as same as that according to the resources we already had in 2021 2022. But this is 2025, we have more resources, and it is expected that we should use those resources and we should be studying the things in great depth. The first basic thing is you have to cover up the whole syllabus the same way you have been studying. आपने literary theory नहीं study किया, so you have to study the same thing every day, the same thing. आपको एक foundation knowledge को build up कौन करना पड़ेगा, like Jack Derrida has coined this term and all those things. Okay, then you have to start using the AI, start reading the books, Peter Barry and P.K. Nair. So okay, I will take you to the computer screen. I will share with you the exact strategy that you have to study for literary theory. Of course, literary theory and British literature, again you are going to find 55 to 60 questions. Yes, 60 questions. So that's more than 60% of the question paper. And in every competitive exam, they are increasing the number of questions that can be asked from literary theory, because literary theory is something that they can create analytical thinking, intellectual questions. For other subjects, it's just memorizing and ratification. What you have to do is you have to go to amazon.in and then you have to search here P.K. Nair's literary theory. Alright, so this is the book that you have to refer for sure. आपको कुछ नहीं समझ आता, so use the AI. Okay, what you have to do is use the AI. Just get this book and start reading this book. Okay, how you have to use the AI? For example, like if you are not able to understand anything in the book, simply click the photo of that and ask the ChatGPT what is the meaning of it. आपको जब तक वो पैराग्राफ अच्छे से समझ ना आए, just asking the questions from ChatGPT and make the notes in the resources are there. Resources are provided to you, so you have to use those resources. This book is just really necessary, because you see when you read these type of books, it will improve your comprehension. There are a lot of questions in the UGC-NET examination that we have seen over here. You see over here, question is bricolage. I know that many of you are knowing about this, but then again आपने कहीं ना कहीं कुछ पढ़ा होगा, so you will be able to remember कि यार ये शायद इसका हो सकता है. Okay, so like the same way territorialization, तो इसका आंसर ये है. That's also a common question, but then not so many students know what is this particular term all about. I also do not teach this term because this term is very complex and it's very philosophical to understand. But then आपने कहीं ना कहीं रीड किया हुआ है, तो कहीं ना कहीं रीड किया हुआ ही एग्जाम में आता है. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल लाइक ऑन्टोथियोलॉजी, यू माइट हैव रेड द बुक पीटर बैरी इज अनदर बुक ऑन literary theory. Okay, so that's a tough book to read, but I will strongly suggest you to read this book. कहीं ना कहीं पे कुछ ना कुछ रीड किया होता है तो वो आंसर एग्जाम में निकल के आता है. Okay, so we have thick description, vehicle and tenor, we have already studied it. Transnational signified, we have already studied. Alienation effect, of course we have already studied it. So कहीं ना कहीं पे कुछ ना कुछ रीड किया होता है तो वो माइंड में कहीं ना कहीं स्ट्राइक हो जाता है in the examination. So that really makes a big difference in your studies. First thing is British literature and literary theory. Clear the basics from some YouTube channels, from the course that you can subscribe to Limitless Literature, or else from anything, because that will help you to understand Peter Barry and P.K. Nair's actually well. If you're not able to understand P.K. Nair or Peter Barry, use the ChatGPT, take the screenshot of the book, like whatever you are studying. If this is a book and you are not able to understand the book, so what you do is you take the picture and then you ask from the ChatGPT, like what does this paragraph mean? Okay, until unless you do not understand that paragraph, write down the notes. When you understand it, then only it is going to make the difference. So you have to build upon your knowledge on the basics. We all provide the foundational knowledge. That's the truth. Basics आपके clear होंगे तो you will be able to read this book. Basics कहाँ से clear करने हैं? Of course you have to subscribe to any course, or you have to refer to online classes or YouTube free lectures. कहीं ना कहीं पे आपको you have to cover up the basics कि post colonial theory क्या होता है, like what are the writers that are there in reader response criticism. Okay, for instance we have this, these are the basic things. Okay, like for example these are the lecture notes, reader response theory. Okay, once you are able to understand who introduced the transactional theory, what is afferent reading, what is aesthetic reading, and then you study normal whole and identify the 5 reader readings, then Wolfgang Iser. Okay, so you have to remember the years also, 1976, 1972. Once आपके जब ये सारे basics clear हो जाएं, okay, so we have already provided the lectures and these are the lecture ready-made notes on these lectures on response theory. Okay, and then you have to study these books क्योंकि ये books पढ़ना तब आसान हो जाएगा when you've been through the basics. You can also read these topics from YouTube also, or else you can just subscribe to Limitless Literature, and yes, of course, that will also help us to continue our work here on YouTube, giving up the salaries to the teams and running this whole working of the Limitless Literature. Okay, but then again you can find all these things on YouTube also, clearing up all the basics of literary theory. These two books are the most important. When कहीं ना कहीं पे आपने कुछ पढ़ा होगा तो ये वाले आंसर्स कहीं ना कहीं पे उठ के आ जाएंगे. ठीक है, ये सब कुछ मेंशन होता है इन बुक्स के अंदर. रिमाइंडर हैज बीन द फर्स्ट यूज्ड बाय, ऑफ कोर्स वी हैव बीन सीइंग लाइक फॉर द लास्ट 4 years or 5 years the question paper comes from the syllabus that we have prescribed to the students, the courses that we have prescribed to the students. But then again this time we have seen the question paper pattern has been changing, becoming more dynamic. They are asking the same topics but in a great depth, dynamic type of questions. For example, they asked who was against formalism. So formalism is a work of language and literature. So what all are the theories that are against language and literature? So we can say Marxism was against language and literature because Marxism says literature is the byproduct of the upper class society, bourgeoisie class. Then we have post-colonial literature, which is also against the formalism, which says literature is the product of Western canon. It's not the canon of the third world literature. And so these are the like you can say स्ट्राइक, ये स्ट्राइक करेगा ना जब एग्जाम के अंदर कि फॉर्मलिज्म क्या है, फॉर्मलिज्म लिटरेचर एंड लैंग्वेज पे है और उसके अगेंस्ट कौन कौन से थे. सो वो स्ट्राइक करता है एग्जाम के अंदर. रीडर रिस्पॉन्स थ्योरी हो सकता है उसका आंसर. 40 क्वेश्चंस from literary theory, that makes a big difference. Of course they have asked English studies in India. English studies in India you can study of course from eGyan Kosh. I can just give you the link of eGyan Kosh also, or else you can just simply subscribe to Limitless Literature course. And then of course if you cannot afford that, you can simply go eGyan Kosh English studies in India. Okay, you simply go in MEG 10 English studies in India. If you want to study in detail, there are 8 units, 8 blocks, and then you just have 4 units in every block. So 8 for the 32, like there are 32, maybe 35 or 36. But then again, it is always better to have a guide, to have someone to count on that you can rely on. And then efforts are yours. आपको खुद को efforts मारने पड़ेंगे, and you have to figure it out by yourself how you are going to make the difference in your studies. Okay, so these are the things that I wanted to share with you in literary theory. We will be discussing more things according to the question paper that has been released. Okay, subscribe to Limitless Literature. I will see you soon in the next video. That's it. Thank you.